Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend this evening with me to chat about the power of mindfulness. So let's begin with a little bit of an introduction. So my name is Sarah Lynn. I am the owner of Bettering Youth, which is an academic tutoring company that blends in emotional well-being coaching. I come from a teaching background, and even while I was within the classroom, I was always trying to embed emotional well-being within everything that we did. So that was through wellness days and yoga clubs and workshops, and it's something that I've been able to continue throughout my entire journey as an educator. So emotional well-being coaching is another strand that we offer with the company. It is allowing us to help families support children through behavioral changes, but still providing them with the tools that they need in order to successfully navigate through different challenges. So in order to begin, what I thought we would do is begin with 3 deep belly breaths. I know it can sound a little cheesy, but I will definitely explain why this is so important a little later on. For now, we just need to go with the flow. So here we go. A nice big deep breath in. I don't know about you, but I already feel slower and calmer. So today is all about mindfulness. So let's start with what is mindfulness? As we just saw, we just practiced mindfulness. We concentrated on our breath. So we're allowing ourselves to come into the moment. However, it's not just something that we can do once and feel like we're experts at. So I bet even while we were going through the exercise, you were probably still thinking about what are you going to cook for tea? What are you going to do tomorrow? Can you hear little pitter-patter footsteps in the background? You were still kind of distracted. And that's because mindfulness is a practice. So let's start by talking about what it's not. It's not going to be a quick fix. It's not something that we just take off a list and move on from. This is a really good picture that shows 2 different types of mindful. We have on the left side, the mindful aspect, which you might be feeling right now as it's the middle of the week. On the other side, we have mindfulness, which is about being present in the moment. What you'll notice is that on that on the right side, it's not a blank image, right? I didn't ask you to forget everything and put everything out of your mind. I was asking you to concentrate on your breath and how it felt. Because if I were to ask you to clear your mind, automatically we're starting to put all of these buildings or these obstructions on our thoughts, and we're spending energy trying to block them. That's not the point of mindfulness. The point of mindfulness is being able to witness things almost from a bird's eye view, just like this photo shows. Mindfulness also comes from the Buddhist belief system. It's not really embedded in religion, but it does have a lot to do with being in the moment. So as we can see from this ideogram, the top part is kind of like a house. And that house part refers to being home, right? Being present. The bottom half represents the heart. And that really is what mindfulness is all about, being present and connected to your being. So how does it benefit humans? Like, why are we here? Why are we talking about it? So mindfulness is actually proven to increase gray matter in the brain. So if we did a brain image, we would have different gray patches that are showing the different synapses pathways that have been strengthened. So it's really powerful for recalling memory, eliminating or reducing the risk of dementia, and also improving memory or learning abilities. It also increases the space between the catalyst and the response. So a catalyst is like when we knee-jerk a reaction, something happens, and then there's a response to it. So by creating more of a space in between how we respond, it allows us to think more about what our reaction is going to be, which is an incredibly powerful tool to have in any kind of relationship. It always allows us to feel less stressed and worried. That's why we did the breathing exercise at the beginning. We were initiating our parasympathetic system, which is just a fancy way of saying that we were telling our body, hey, it's all good. You can relax right now. You're in a state of being safe, and you are allowed that time for peace. We will also always feel more joyous and connected because we're staying in the present, right? We're not looking to the past, depression, and we're not looking to the future, anxiety. We're right in the moment. Okay, so I promised this was going to be research backed. There's so much research, but here are a couple of my top favorites. A recent study found that 4th and 5th graders who took a 4-month meditation program demonstrated improvements in cognitive control, working memory, and yes, math test scores. So as a tuition company, our main objective from the parent's point of view is to improve your child's ability to excel academically. Linking what we do within that academic approach to our mindfulness coaching really allows us to support your child beyond just that test. Another research study that I really enjoyed was one in Edinburgh that talked about the impact of mindfulness on children 9 and 10 years old. And there are so many different benefits here. The ability to focus and pay attention. So they have better handle on their emotions, which is so imperative, especially as they increase, as they move towards puberty, right? Really important for them to have that emotional regulation. They also engaged in less confrontations and they had better focus. So as I said, the research here, there's so much of it. If you headed over to our website, you'd see a big sign that says grounded in evidence. And this is just a small piece of the pie of the evidence that we've backed all of our work to. So how do we practice mindfulness then? There are 2 ways to practice it. There's the active method or the passive method. So this evening, we've already done the active method. That's mindfulness meditation or focusing on a breathing exercise. It's where you're not doing anything else except that task. The passive method, on the other hand, is probably a little bit more reasonable in terms of integrating it into your everyday life, especially at the beginning, because you're doing things with intention. So instead of having to carve out a chunk of time in your precious day, we're allowing you or we're encouraging you to practice mindfulness while you're already doing things. While you're folding the laundry, think about the colors, think about the textures and how it feels or the smell. While you're doing the dishes, how does it feel when you have the soap running through your hands? Focusing on your senses while you're engaging in activities is a form of being mindful. So what can mindfulness do for your child? Well, we've already talked about some of the great benefits, but there are many more here that are discussed. And some of my favorite are an increased empathy and understanding of others, especially in today's world. This is paramount to be able to acknowledge that our experience of life is going to be different from someone else's, but it doesn't make it better or worse. But there's a common acknowledgement of allowing us to have those conversations is so important. Another one that I thought was really important was an improved behavior. And I'm not talking necessarily about your child being just less frustrating, but what I am discussing is your child is going to be more aware of how they feel. They're going to get a better sense of how their body feels in certain situations, and therefore their emotional literacy is going to improve. And with an increased emotional literacy, children have a better ability to advocate for themselves. And that in turn will help them kind of mitigate the ups and downs of mental health. So how can we go about teaching teens about mindfulness? Bettering Youth is dedicated towards supporting family in teaching children about emotional literacy. Emotional literacy is one of 5 activities that we do with the families and children that we coach. Emotional literacy, if we break it down, is about understanding our emotions and being able to communicate them. There are different ways that we can do this. And if you check out our blog, we have over 30 different activities that you can use with your family. Today, I'm going to be covering my favorite. If I were in a classroom or if I were working with a child one-on-one, I would first ask them to trace themselves on full skate paper. This is actually an example of one of the students that we were working with to support them in boosting their understanding of their emotions and how their body interprets them. We start by asking, how does your body feel? That initial conversation allows our children to reflect on how and where their body might feel some tension or some pain. Linking that to this specific activity allows them to truly be able to communicate better. This activity goes a little like this. I'll start by giving each group or a child an emotion that is a little bit abstract, like excitement. And I'll ask them to annotate their drawing with where, how, and what they feel when they are excited. This is a case where the child was feeling anger and frustration. But what's interesting is once they do a couple of the emotions, they start to realize that the physiological response is typically similar across different emotions. For instance, when you're feeling excitement, you might have butterflies in your stomach, or your palms might sweat. You might even have dry mouth. Those are all symptoms or signs that we might also experience if we are feeling fearful, nervous, anxious, all of the different emotions. And so by going through this activity, we're also encouraging our children to get really clear and really personal with how their body feels in each of these states. So it's not just, I feel an upset stomach, but how does that tummy feel? Does it feel like butterflies? And you may have attributed butterflies already to feeling nervous. Does it feel all swooshy and kind of whirlwind? That could have been attributed to feeling anxious. There's different ways that we can help our children boost their ability to communicate with ourselves. So when they come to us with those mysterious headaches or the constant stream of stomach aches, we can start to unpick the root cause of them by identifying what emotion is really going on here. So I really hope that through today, you've been able to identify how mindfulness works, the different ways that we can do it, how it's so simple for you to implement it within your day, and how by increasing our child's emotional literacy, we're empowering them to communicate with us, themselves, and the world at large. 2 of the ways that you can continue this journey with us are by connecting with us at Bettering Youth for emotional well-being coaching or academic tutoring. You can find us here at this website. Another way that you can move through this journey is by joining us every single month for a Mindful Toolbox. It is a webinar series that is dedicated to supporting children's mental health. That's all for me today. I hope you have a fantastic evening. Be sure to tag us on Facebook or Instagram if you end up using or trying any of our mindfulness activities. My name is Sarah Lynn, and I hope you guys have a great night. Take care. Bye now.